Hello, everyone out there. It is now officially time for my annual Game of the Year Awards countdown here on DSP Gaming. You know, for over 15 years, I have been someone who has absolutely strove to give you honesty, transparency, and fun in all of my playthroughs. You know that when I play a game, I can be totally honest about what you're watching, because I don't behold to anyone, right? I'm not going to lose a sponsor. I'm not going to get in trouble because I kiss a game's butt or I say a game sucks. And that's really why I really try to do my absolute best at the end of the year to pick the games that I feel were the best of the year. I don't even review games anymore like I used to. So to a lot of people, these game rankings that I do are actually a mystery, although people tried to guess. I pride myself on, you know, being honest and truthful and transparent, and hopefully you feel that that'll come through in my Game of the Year awards this year. And let me tell you, 2023 was a great year for games. It was also a disappointing year for games. If you want to see my take on the most disappointing games, I've already done a separate video on this channel for that countdown. I hope you'll check it out. But now, it is time to truly recognize the greats, the games that stood out among the pack. And let me tell you, this year was a year where certain games were so good that they made their competition look like dirt. And on a normal year, maybe that wouldn't have been the case. But a lot of the games that we're about to talk about in this countdown actually stood apart from the others in such a great way that they just trounced their competition and made them look like amateur night. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited to go through this countdown for sure. And I hope that you guys will enjoy it. The way it works is I'm going to name a number in the countdown. I'm going to explain why that's in my countdown, and I'm going to play a video clip to show you footage of that game during this countdown. After each number, I'm going to go to the chat and see what they have to say, if they agree or disagree, or what their comments are. If any contributions happen to come in during this countdown, I am going to shout them out, because this is an interactive live stream as well as an on-demand video. By all means, leave comments on this video if you're watching it after the fact on demand, and let me know, do you agree with my picks? Do you disagree? What's your take? I would love to hear it, okay? Without further ado, it is now time to get into my top 10 best games of 2023. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I would be doing a massive disservice if I did not do one honorable mention. And that honorable mention this year is Baldur's Gate 3, okay? Some people thought that I might have counted Baldur's Gate 3 in my countdown for Game of the Year 2023. However, I feel like that would not be fair. And the reason for that is very simple, okay? I started playing it in December. I'm only around 40 hours into a 120-hour, arguably long game. So if I ranked this in my Game of the Year awards, I feel like that would be unfair. Right now, I don't want to rank it. I like it. You guys know that. You know that I'm really enjoying this playthrough, correct? But I don't want to formally rank it when I don't know what the rest of the game is. What if this game is really strong in the first third and fizzles out in the last third, like a couple other games that happened to this year? Then maybe I wouldn't think of it as great, right? So I'm not going to rank this at all in my top 10 games of the year, but I will say this. I'm going to continue to play this game in 2024. And when I finish it in 2024, I will consider it for my Game of the Year awards for next year. That's right. Even though technically it's not from 2024, I'm going to consider it for next year's countdown, and you may very well see it, at least if it stays at the good pacing and the good quality that it's in right now for Act 1, perhaps you will see this in my Game of the Year awards next year. Okay? So now that we've got that out of the way, and I can actually focus on the games that I did play fully in 2023, let's get started. All right. And there goes half my viewership. They're out. They're gone. They're like, nah, we wanted to see Baldur's Gate. Oh, well. Tune in tomorrow. I'm playing it on stream. All right. So, the number 10 best game of 2023 is going to shock you all. Because the truth is that some people just see things as black and white. And so if I criticize a game, a lot of people, a lot of the time, say things like, I can't believe he would criticize the game but then like it. So they just think I hate it. But that's not the truth. There's games out there that I criticize strongly because I wish they were better, but that doesn't mean that they're not great games. And in fact, when I was narrowing it down to like my top games of the year, this one shocked me, but I wanted it in the countdown. I was like, I totally want this game to get recognition because you know what? Everyone forgot it. Ladies and gentlemen, the game we're about to talk about, I put the wrong clip. I put the wrong clip. Let's try that again. It was another Baldur's Gate 3 clip. Oops. All right. The game I wanted to talk about, where is it? Hold on. That was totally the wrong clip. Oh, crap. I don't have it? Oh, you got to be kidding me. I don't have it. Oh, well, guys, I don't have the clip. This really sucks. I have the wrong clip for you. I put an honorable mention clip twice. Because what I wanted to do, when I did honorable mention, I wanted to talk about this and say Baldur's Gate 3. But I accidentally didn't put the Star Wars clip in. Ladies and gentlemen, the game I wanted to talk about was Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And I don't have a clip of it for you tonight. I'm sorry. Okay? So Star Wars Jedi Survivor, maybe I could do it really fast. Hold on. Maybe I can grab a clip really fast, but it's probably going to play the audio, and then I'm going to have to mute it. Let's see. I might have one. Crap. It says Street Fighter 6. Maybe it's under Jedi Survivor. I think it is. Jedi Survivor. Okay. This is going to be real bootleg, and it's going to be loud. Hold on, I got to mute it. Once I play it, I got to mute it. Oh, it's muted. Oh, cool. All right. I pulled it off. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is my number 10 best game of 2023. And you're going to say, what? You're like, what? No way. Phil, you slammed this game. Just last night, it was actually featured in my most disappointing games of the year countdown. So some people are like, I don't understand. Why would Star Wars Jedi Survivor be in your top 10 best games of the year? Because the game is great. This game is leaps and bounds better than Jedi Fallen Order from a few years ago. The combat's better. Having multiple lightsaber stances is incredibly fun. The platforming and parkour is improved. The sneaking abilities and Jedi abilities are better. The graphics are better. The story is way better, right? This game, no lie, if it didn't have the problems that it does have, likely would have been in my top 5 games of 2023. I'm not kidding you. That's how much I liked it. I thought this playthrough was absolutely outstanding. The problem was, when this game came out, all right, both on PC and Xbox, the game ran absolutely horribly. It had game bugs, game crashes, save file corruption, tons of frame rate dips that made the game completely unenjoyable and unplayable in certain parts. And as they say, first impressions are everything. I was loving the game till I got to this part. I couldn't get by it because it was chopping up. It was like 10 frames per second. I can't beat it because the game runs like crap. So I waited. That's something I almost never do. I almost would never delay a playthrough. So I delayed the playthrough about 2 weeks. I went back to it. They still hadn't fixed it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to tough through it. I'm happy I did. But then the game continued to have issues. Open a chest, look at loot, game crashes. Now you have to replay 15 minutes of gameplay. It's kind of ridiculous in that regard. If this game had more polish, it would be so well received. But the problem was, as I said, first impressions are everything. And when this game came out, sadly, so many people experienced the issues that people just stopped talking about it in any kind of a positive light at all. And what ended up happening was people didn't talk about it for the rest of the year, forgot about it. Game Awards came and went. Only person who even got nominated was the main actor who played the main character. That was it. Like, no one remembered the gameplay mechanics or anything because they're like, that's that buggy game, right? And that's a shame. This game was so much better than this first one. And now I'm worried maybe they won't make any more, but the story is unfinished. The story is continuing, and I'm like, man, I want a third game. I hope the third game, they take their time and they polish it, because I was so frustrated with how the game performed, and that held it back. So you might disagree with me, and that's okay, but if you actually watch my playthrough of the game, you're going to see genuine joy and enjoyment for this. You know, you're going to see that and be like, wow, I get it. But it's a shame that the game kind of fell apart, right? So it is what it is. If you disagree, that's fine. But for me, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is my number 10 pick for the best games of 2023. Okay. So Hiseo says, hey, when I played Survivor on PS5, I only had one glitch. Other than that, I never had a major bug or problem. That's what I heard. I did hear that on PS5, the game performed well. But you shouldn't have to only buy it on one of 3 platforms to get the real game, and that's the problem. Maybe if I played it on PS5, it literally would be a top 5 game for me. I don't know. Golden Nobles did a super chat. He says, a 2023 game can be a Game of the Year contender for 2024. Yes, because it's my countdown. I could do whatever I want. I could say that Gonzo the Great goes to Walmart to shop for kumquats is a game contender for this year. I could literally say that, you know, a 1972 Pinto could be a Game of the Year contender too, because it's my countdown. You see? That's how it works. Okay, so let's continue. Thank you, Golden Nobles, for that very insightful super chat. I really appreciate that. All right, let's continue. Again, this is another one. My number 9 pick for Game of the Year, my number 9 best Game of the Year, I should say, is going to be a game where, again, a lot of people are going to be like, I can't believe it. Because so many people, again, think that it's black and white if a game is good or bad, and that's not true. All right? It's many shades of gray. That's scary when I say that because you know what it makes me think of. But anyway, I can see both sides of a game, and ultimately there was a game this year that I raged at a lot, but when I finally got to the good parts of it and I beat it, I actually really enjoyed it, and that game is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And again, people, but you crapped on that game, and you said the frame rate was bad, and you didn't like the elements of it, and blah, 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 right? And listen, okay, I get what you're saying, because I was kind of very critical of the game. That doesn't mean the game is bad and I can't recognize it for being good, nor does it mean that I disliked the game. In fact, I really liked the game. I did. I just felt it was too bloated. There was too much content to really discern what was important, and it took too long to beat because you were kind of wasting time figuring out what was important to do. But I liked the dungeons. I liked the boss fights. I liked going around and exploring the story and the glyphs. I actually liked solving some of the unique puzzles and aspects of it. I really liked the actual building and physics mechanics that were new to the game. I didn't think I would. Remember early on I said, I want to play Zelda. I don't want to play Minecraft or Fortnite. Why they're putting building elements in this game I don't get, because it seems like they're trying to wedge in parts of another game. When I finally got around to doing it, I don't think they did. I think they did actually innovate with the building. Problem was, that was pretty much the only thing they innovated in this game. Everything else was kind of a copy-paste of Breath of the Wild, except for that. But it was still a damn good game. But I'm not going to give it like a top 5 ranking when it was too similar to its previous iteration. Still a great game. Still a must-play if you own a Switch. You're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you skipped it. But at the same time, yeah, I'm not going to say it's like my favorite game of the year, but it definitely is a top one, and I really did enjoy the playthrough. If you didn't see it, I recommend it. You're going to see some rage in there at the things that I feel are disappointments of the game, but I did overall really like it. Okay, and of course, people are now using the tomato emote or emoji in the chat, citing that they need to tomato the stage that I'm on. The good thing is, I'm over across the internet, and they haven't invented a digital tomato that can come out of my webcam and splatter me in the face yet. But I did have the cowboy hat on to dick my head just in case something came at me. But I guess we're safe for another year. So there you go. Thank you very much. Let's continue on. I wish I could read people's responses, but no one's responding. Everyone's just saying boo and throwing tomatoes, digital tomatoes, in the chat. Gabriel says, I told you I thought this would go longer than you thought. What are you talking about? We're on good time right now. We are exactly on pace for the time that I allotted for this. So we're good. Okay, continuing on. We're now on to number 8. My number 8 pick for one of the best games of 2023. This game shocked me. This is a game I almost missed. And I 100% attribute all of the credit to my amazing viewers and community, because you guys told me about it, convinced me to play it, and I am so happy that I checked it out. Ladies and gentlemen, my number 8 pick for best game of the year is RoboCop Rogue City. Yes, a game that I didn't even know existed till you guys told me about it. As a fan of action movies, and 1980s stuff, this game resonates with anyone who's an 80s kid. Seriously, as a fan of RoboCop playing this game, this feels like it would have been in line with, like, this should have been RoboCop 3, because RoboCop 3, the movie, sucks ass. So this is much better than what actually ended up being RoboCop 3, in my opinion. They've got Peter Weller, the actual voice actor and physical actor of RoboCop, to play the voice acting for RoboCop in this game, and it actually directly follows the plot line of RoboCop 2. So if you saw RoboCop 1 and 2, you will absolutely love this game. It's kind of like when they made that Ghostbusters game that felt like Ghostbusters 3. That's exactly what this is. It's got elements from games like Deus Ex, other fun first-person shooter-style games, and it combines them all. If anything, all right, there's only a couple critiques that I really have of the game. Number one, this game is a AA game. This is not made by a giant big budget studio, and they didn't have the means to really make it a super high production value game. Because of that, the character models outside of RoboCop, who looks very, very good, most of the character models look like crap. They do, okay? They look like they're early PS3, Xbox 360 era, maybe even late PS2 era character models. And that sucks. When you're making a game like this that has an epic story and all this content, you want your characters to look good. They don't. They just didn't have the budget for it. But outside of that, the gunplay is fun, and it evolves over the course of the game as you find upgrades for your amazing automated police issue handgun, okay? Side quests out the butt. You would think a game like this is just a first-person shooter. It's not. It literally is a first-person action RPG, again, similar to, say, like Deus Ex, where RoboCop will change how he plays over the course of the game. There's dialogue trees, and if you level him up in a certain way, he knows the right choices to make in dialogue. Think about that. That's like a Fallout choice, right? That's pretty darn neat. But he can increase gunplay, he can increase damage, different abilities, like shockwaves or ricocheting bullets off the environment to hit people from behind. It is pretty darn epic, the amount of upgrading choices you get playing the RoboCop game. You would never expect... I thought this was just a first-person shooter that was just action-based. It couldn't be further from the truth. The game's around 20 hours long, roughly. It's got cool story twists, awesome choices. The choices you make can actually affect things that happen in the end game of the game. It's got an epic final stage. It's got a cool, awesome twist at the end and an awesome final boss that's right in line with the movies. Like, again, if you are a fan of RoboCop, this is your ideal game that you've been waiting for a million years. They finally made one that's worth a crap. It actually is true to the character, right? But it's not for everyone. If you're someone who's such a stickler for great graphics, you're probably not going to like it. Or if you're someone who's like, I'm looking for the epitome of modernizations. Well, this game definitely plays a little bit outdated. Like I said, it plays like maybe a Deus Ex or something. And if you don't like that style of game, you're probably not going to like RoboCop. But for me, I thought it played well. It had so many fun elements that I didn't expect to be in it. It was a wild ride. I love the plot of RoboCop. It was absolutely a great playthrough. I recommend it. It's cheap. Right now it's on sale for like $25 or something like that. Give it a look. If you're just looking for like a 15 to 20 hour game and you don't care about it being a giant AAA level release, this is right up your alley. And again, if you're a fan of the 1980s and RoboCop like I am, you're going to love this game. Give it a look. RoboCop Rogue City at number 8. All right. And now people are really upset with me. But every year people are upset with me, so I'm good with that. Once again, people like are blown away. They can't believe it. They really can't believe it. They're like, oh my God. They're freaking out here in the chat. Spidey 5000 says, me and my father watched all the RoboCop movies, and this is great for us. Thumbs up. Cool. Knows What Real Vibe says, I think the game should have been top 5. It was a hidden gem, hardly any negative impact. I don't think it had enough refinement or enough content to be a top 5 game. You'll see what I mean. But anyway, let's continue on, ladies and gents. The countdown rolls on. Ladies and gentlemen, the number 7 best game of the year for me is a game that I kind of thought was going to be good. I kind of expected it to be, but that's because it's a sequel. And when you play a sequel, you expect that it should be at least as good as its predecessor. And in this case, I feel this sequel was better than its predecessor. It had improved graphics. It had better gameplay. It had refinedness that the first one didn't have. It actually solved a lot of the problems of the first game that felt very kind of repetitive and grindy. And overall, it actually showed that every once in a while there can actually still be a good console exclusive in the modern era, because the game I'm talking about is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 was an exceptionally good outing in the superhero genre. People kept asking me the entire time I played Spider-Man 2, is this better than the Arkham trilogy? To which I answered, you know, for the modern day it is, but you have to kind of compare apples to apples. I don't think it's fair to compare the Batman Arkham series from almost a decade ago to a modern superhero game. But this game had so many improvements over the first. First of all, right off the get-go, you've got all of your abilities and combat powers from the first game, but you get to play as two Spider-Man. So one plays a little different than the other, which gives the amount of variety that you want so that the playthrough doesn't feel stale. And that was the problem with Spider-Man 1, is that once you played through halfway through Spider-Man 1, you pretty much saw everything Spider-Man could do. And even though it was fun to swing through New York City, it got kind of boring just doing the same things over and over with the same guy. In this case, each Spider-Man, both Peter and Miles, have their own plot lines, their own individual lives going on, but then they also have these team-ups they need to do for certain story-based missions. They throw in some really cool plot lines here with the Venom symbiote, right? Which everyone knew was in the game. I kind of wish they didn't spoil that, but they did spoil it early to say Venom was in the game. But that was a neat plot line. You had good kind of supporting characters like Norman and Harry Osborn. Some of the classic rogues gallery of Spider-Man are in the game, like Mysterio, Kraven the Hunter, etc. Sandman's in there. I like that a lot. I did. And the graphics were outstanding on the PS2 as well. Or, excuse me, the PS5 as well. Going along with how good the Miles Morales expansion looked, the game looks just as good, if not better. I will just say this, absolute best open world experience in any kind of a city environment or any kind of a superhero game for sure. Like this, I will be honest, yeah, I do like this city better than the Arkham games. But again, that's really not a fair comparison. There's a 10-year difference there. So to say in 10 years, if Rocksteady made Arkham now, it probably would be better. You know what I'm saying? But for the time, it was amazing. And I think that this also is good. The writing, Haseo just reminded me. A few times during the playthrough, I actually like teared up and felt so emotional because the writing was great. It was that good. It wasn't like, oh, we're trying to make you feel cheap or cheesy. There was like emotional plots. Characters, sadly, from the first game who passed away. People coming to realizations about themselves, right? It's pretty awesome when you can learn something about the human condition by playing a freaking superhero video game. Who expected that, right? And by the way, the game has tons of content. Now, I will admit, by the time you get to the end, there is some of the content that feels grindy. I actually did not platinum Spider-Man 2. I did platinum Spider-Man 1. I think that a little bit of the side content at the end is too grindy and too time-consuming. But you don't have to do all of it to enjoy the game at all. But there's enough meaningful side missions, great content, always something to do in the new New York City that's fully expanded. Now, instead of just the mainland island of Manhattan, you've got the other boroughs that are represented across the river, which is great. Again, having the two Spider-Men and their own plots is really great. And now we kind of see this game is kind of the passing of the torch. That Peter probably is going to be either a side character or maybe not the focus of the next one. Miles will be. And that's cool. So I really, really enjoyed it. I hope that you guys did too. One of my favorite games of the year by far. All right, let's just get this next one out of the way at turbo speed. Number 6 is Hogwarts Legacy. And everyone's going to get up in arms about this. But I really liked this game earlier on in the year. I really did. I felt like it was such a cool atmosphere. The art design, the world design was done well. It was the first time I ever played an interactive Harry Potter game. I put all the controversy aside with the politics. I just wanted to enjoy the game for what it was. And for the first 2/3 of the ride, I thought that this game was absolutely outstanding. And I'll tell you this, I actually feel like if the final third of the game was as good as the first 2/3, this would have been top 4 for me this year, at least. The only reason that it's number 6 for me is because the last third of the game actually fizzles out and gets boring, repetitive, and kind of sucks. And that's a shame. Because again, this game was good, just didn't... It felt like it was an amazing first outing. And if they're to make a sequel to it, which it sounds like they're going to, did you know... I gotta say this in my Game of the Year awards. It doesn't matter how many of you hate on this game. Hogwarts Legacy is the best-selling video game of 2023. It sold over 22 million copies. That's more than Call of Duty. That's more than any Grand Theft Auto. It sold more than anything. It doesn't matter what the games media says. It doesn't matter what the leftist mob says. It doesn't matter at all. This game was a sales dynamo, and more people played this game this year than any other game that was purchased. Okay? The numbers speak for themselves. Potter is alive and well. All right? So, I really liked the representation of Hogwarts Academy in this game. I really liked all the little mystery things, the attentions to detail, the polish that the game had. I liked having the magic actually be fun to use in combat. I loved learning new spells. I loved flying around on my broom, open world, and exploring. I loved the amount of puzzles, story, side quests, and content that were in the game. Again, my one negative, I mean, hell, I bought a scarf and a hat to wear during my days when I was playing this playthrough. The problem was, the last third, they ran out of ideas. And the game slowed down to a crawl. A third area of the map opened up. When you get there, you're bored. It's the same puzzles, the same stuff again. You're like, oh man, really? They're not going to add anything new for the whole final 10, 15 hours? No, they're not. So in that regard, it does sputter. And it doesn't feel as good as it should have been. But I loved it. It was, and the funny part is, because it was an early year game, most people aren't talking about it anymore. It just sold another 2 million copies in December on the Switch, by the way. It's still selling. People are still playing it and liking it. Even almost a year later, it's still a game that's hot and people are enjoying. So, doesn't matter how much the media want to spin something. This game exists. It's good. I loved it. You'll probably like it if you're a fan of the Potterverse. And don't listen to the nonsense, because it's hilarious when they tell you don't play it because J.K. Rowling. Well, the game is literally anti-politics of J.K. Rowling. There's a trans character in this game that is represented very, very fairly. Very positive character. They actually run an establishment in the Hogsmeade town. They're part of the plot for multiple missions. Never misrepresented in any bad way whatsoever. So how you can say this game supports her politics when actually it's directly in opposition to them, it just shows that you're an idiot. I'm sorry. Anyone who said that didn't play the game, didn't care, just wanted to stand on some kind of a soapbox because they really don't like J.K. Rowling, which is fine, but stop rubbing your politics off on things that don't involve them. This is a great game. Please give it a look. All right. I just wanted to get through that before people started getting their pitchforks and torches ready. Okay. Now we're into the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. The top 5 best games of 2023, in my opinion. And you can disagree. And by the way, now's a good time to say to everyone, hey, I want to hear your opinions. I know I'm seeing the opinions of those in chat. Okay? But I'm not seeing the opinions of those who are watching on demand, because I can't go through the internet and read your minds. Leave comments on the video and let me know. Are you agreeing with my list? Are you disagreeing? Do you like my picks? Do you not like my picks? I'd like to hear your thoughts, so please share. Your thoughts are important to me, okay? All right, let's continue. My number 5 favorite game of this year is, I hate to say it, it's sadly one of those games that I loved, but it did not really resonate with most of my audience. And I think it's honestly because I do come from a different gaming generation. I do. And because I come from a different gaming generation, I tend to like things that my more modern viewers don't. I also think it's because of my age. I'm in my 40s, and I tend to have an older audience. If you're not aware, most of my viewers are in their 20s or 30s or 40s. I don't have a teen audience or a young children's audience, right? And so this game particularly, I loved every moment that I played it. I felt that it innovated. I felt that it performed very well. And unlike its direct competitor, it provided a ton of content. It was a good value for the dollar, okay? The game that I'm talking about at number 5 is Super Mario Bros. Wonder on the Switch. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the first 2D Mario game in many, many years. At one point, they were pumping these out like one a year or even more, okay? But after having get kind of burnt out on these games for a while, they put them on hiatus. They put them on the shelf. They started focusing on like Mario Odyssey, all different other games. Finally, they decided to bring one back. You're like, well, man, we're going to bring back 2D Mario. Is it going to be any good? Yeah, this game had so much effort put into it, so much creativity. Every stage has a unique aspect to it that's unique to that individual stage. This game implemented power-ups we hadn't seen in Mario games for ages, but also introduced a slew of new ones, like the elephant suit, okay? The game had multiple characters. Now, the characters pretty much all play very similarly, but they look different, which is really neat, that you can have a different appearance for the character you're using. And, you know, if you want to play it as a group, it's always cool to be able to pick the character that you like or maybe relate to a little bit more. Outstanding soundtrack, my God. You know, some really good tunes, but at the same time, I will be honest with you, I don't think that it's as good as previous Mario games in that regard. There was only maybe a few tunes that I really remember at the end of the day. While I could tell you I remember Mario music from other platformers a lot more than this one. But, really great, unique world. You know what this game reminded me of? A hybrid of Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. For those who don't know, Super Mario World is my favorite platformer of all time, and Super Mario Bros. 3 is my second favorite platformer of all time. So to combine those two into one really was a hit for me. You know, an open world map with exploration and hidden secrets and fun, tons of replayability because you want to get every single coin. You want to get every single flagpole at the end of a stage, right? Here's one of the hidden things right there. See those hidden flower coins. Secret worlds. Like I said, each stage has its own hidden part. And then by doing every hidden part of every stage, you could then actually have it be that you can unlock secret content, hidden content, and stuff like that, okay? So, I loved Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I thought it was an exceptional return to 2D Mario that was needed. You know, this game had polish, attention to detail, tons of content. This game is 17 hours long. 17. You want to know what its direct competitor was this year? Sonic Superstars. Do you want to know how long that game was? 5 hours. It more than tripled the length of its direct competitor. You know, and it shows. When Nintendo comes out with an outstanding game that's a first-party game, you're like, wow, you're always blown away, right? And, you know, Tears of the Kingdom was good, but it felt way too much to me like Breath of the Wild. This game felt like they really wanted to try to make it different and better than all the previous 2D iterations, and it showed. It absolutely did. There was not a single stage I played in this game where I was like, this is just one of those filler stages. It's kind of boring. There's nothing interesting going on. It was the complete and utter opposite, and I loved it. The sad fact is, though, there's so many people in the modern day that don't get it. They think that because it's a 2D platformer, it's outdated and it's not good. Or they'll say, oh, that's a kiddie game because it's a Mario game. It's like, are we all not gamers and we're out for great gameplay experiences? And even if, like, 2D platforming isn't for you, can you not understand why these kind of games from a bygone era would still resonate with a certain audience? These are the games I grew up with, man. And to see that Nintendo is still in the modern day pumping out games that are innovative and different in this genre is amazing. How many other things from my childhood in the 1980s get modern versions that are good? Not much. A lot of the times they're trying to rehash the stuff from the 80s and it sucks. This is a case where they're not rehashing. They're actually doing new things and innovating. That's amazing to me that Nintendo can do that and pull it off in a modern environment. You understand? So, yeah, I am kind of irked that sadly with my audience, I can't get it so that people really like all the stuff that I like. I wish more people had liked this playthrough and wanted to see it. Honestly, this was actually one of my less received playthroughs. Low attendance, you know, people saying, I wish he would play something else. That's sad because the game was so darn good. This kind of happened with Super Mario Odyssey as well. I thought Super Mario Odyssey was Game of the Year 2017 and people gave me crap for it. Maybe I'm just, at heart, perhaps, I really am a fanboy of Mario. Okay? I don't know. But I really enjoyed this game. I hope that if you didn't give it a shot because you heard from me, oh, it's a Mario game, that's a kid's game. Everyone of every age will enjoy this game. Seriously, it's got that challenge. If you actually make it into like a challenge run like I did, trying to find every coin, do every secret, you know, flag, see the secret exits, this game is super duper fun. Please give it a look. Even if you play it and you don't enjoy it, at least you judge for yourself. There's too many people in the modern day that don't judge for themselves, and I feel like sadly a lot of my viewers are like that. That's not an adult game. That's a game for little kids. Why do I care that Phil played it? Because it's good. I wouldn't tell you it was good. I wouldn't lie to you. Why would I lie? I want you to play good games. I'm not a jerk. I also people think I'm a jerk. I'm not a jerk. I want you to enjoy the games that you put your time into. Okay? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and I certainly hope that you'll check out the game if you did not. All right? Fair enough? Okay. I want to say thank you to Gaming Addict for a $20 super chat. However, you probably came to the possibly worst stream that you ever could to try to propose anything to me, because this is my Game of the Year awards, and I can't be distracted tonight. I have to get through the list. So I appreciate that. If you're interested, you want to email me, darksidephil@hotmail.com, please do. And I thank you for the super chat, but there's no way that I can respond to that right now. I am amidst something very important, okay? Thank you, Gaming Addict, for the super chat. Okay, let's continue. So, now, we're really getting down to it, guys. We're getting down to the big ones. The ones that are my absolute fave games of the year. And so, ultimately, no matter what I now pick for the top 4, people will be upset. Because everyone has an idea in their mind of what they think was the best game of the year, correct? You can't get around that. The number 4 pick for my favorite game of the year, I was very pleased because, honestly, I wasn't sold on this one at all. All right? I was actually a skeptic. I believed that maybe this game didn't need to be made. All right? I thought maybe it was too early. Maybe it didn't need it at all. That there were better candidates. That there were better games. And that things needed to go in a different direction. But when I finally got my hands on the game and I played it, even having played a different version of this game only about a year prior, I was delighted with how it went. Okay? Rather than keep you at the edge of suspense, I think I'm just going to tell you what it is and explain my rationale. Ladies and gentlemen, my number 4 best game of the year, Resident Evil 4 Remake. A few years ago, there was a game called Resident Evil 2 Remake. And what it did is it reimagined the original Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation 1 from the ground up for a modern audience. It redesigned the Raccoon City police station, the surrounding city around it, and all the underground lab and all of that. And it made it feel like a more modern game. I loved it. In fact, to this day, I still think that's like the poster child as the best version of a remake you can get. When Resident Evil 4 Remake was announced, all right, I said, why? Unlike the original Resident Evil games, this one's not that outdated. I mean, yeah, it's from GameCube era, PS2 era, but it was the first Resident Evil that had modernized controls, over-the-shoulder camera, better graphics, right? You could argue that a lot of the things in Resident Evil 4 were a more modern take on Resident Evil and changed it from its old tank controls and outdated mechanics to a modern situation, right? So, when they said Resident Evil 4 Remake, I said, does it need a remake? I'm not sure it does, all right? But let me tell you, this game won me over. It did, with its very, very, very improved graphics, with the new gameplay elements they added. Like, I particularly selected this video right now because I wanted to show you they added all of this content to the game. The lake now is a fully traversable lake with all this optional content around it that you can now explore. They redid certain parts of the game that previously were annoyances, okay? They made the El Gigante boss fights more interesting and fun rather than tedious or annoying. They retooled certain parts of the game, like the mansion, to be more in line with a modern game and not as annoying. But the challenge still remains. This is by no means an easy game. This is quite a hard game, and I played it on hard, and I still had fun with it. It still has those things, for example, the infamous crank scene, right? Where you're turning a crank and you're trying to save the president's daughter, and she has to basically be defeated, snipe that guy's coming after her. When they're saying, mourir es vivir, mourir es vivir. And it's very annoying. Well, that's still in here. So all those classic moments, those memeable moments from the original game are still in here and you can still enjoy them. But there's a lot of new content and modernizations and new areas and side content that's added. So here's the direct comparison that I can make, okay? Here you go. Resident Evil 4 Remake versus the other major horror remake of the year, Dead Space Remake. Resident Evil 4 Remake put in an insane amount of effort to make it feel like a brand new game. You can play the original Resident Evil 4, then you can play the remake and say, wow, those are two different games. When I played Dead Space and then Dead Space Remake, it felt like I was playing the same game. And that's the major difference here. Okay? So that's what I really like the most about this game. Amazing graphics, great responsive controls that were greatly improved. A lot of the annoying parts of the original game improved upon. Better new areas, open world traversal in certain parts that was really, really cool. And, of course, It's Resident Evil, man. I love survival horror. You guys know that survival horror are always some of my favorite playthroughs of the year, no matter what. And this one really resonated with me. A lot of people loved it. It was actually earlier on in the year, and people loved me doing this playthrough. Actually, if you actually look at views, it might actually be my most viewed playthrough of 2023. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive it ended up being the one that brought more butts to seats, as they say, than anything else. So obviously that says something, right? So Resident Evil 4 remake, huge thumbs up from me. Great example of a remake and what it should be, rather than just using the same game and making it look better, actually adding in enough to make it feel like a different game from the original experience. And that's exactly what this one did. Now, what about Resident Evil 5? Here we go again. Because Resident Evil 5, I'm going to tell you, I think doesn't need to be remade. Resident Evil 5 is a game that I played at the beginning of my YouTube career. And so it doesn't feel like an outdated game to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just like with Resident Evil 4 Remake, I'll be proven wrong. But what I really hope is that Resident Evil 5 Remake is more like 2 or 4 and not 3. Because Resident Evil 3 Remake, they really cut corners. They rushed it. It didn't feel like a complete game. It felt like a ripoff. So I hope we don't get that again. Okay. And now we've done it. Now we're in the top 3. And this is where everyone gets upset. Because no matter what, as they say, you can please all of the people some of the time. You can please some of the people all of the time. But you can't please all of the people all of the time. So it doesn't matter what games I pick for the top 3. There's going to be very annoyed people. Alright? But in the meantime, thank you, Gaming Addict, who had done another super chat right there. I just want to shout that out, and I appreciate that. Alright. So now, top 3 games of the year. I don't think that anyone at all will be surprised that this game is in my top 3. But I think people may be surprised at the placing. Because when I have a game that is my most played of the year, you might think that it is my game of the year. But ladies and gentlemen, it is not. My number 3 pick for 2023 is Street Fighter 6. A game that reinvigorated my passion for fighting games. After so many years, I had just wrote them off and said I didn't want to play them anymore after having played Street Fighter V and hating it. An entire 7-year span passed where I was known as a fighting game YouTuber and I stopped playing most fighting games. I casually played the NetherRealm ones like Mortal Kombat or Injustice. I casually would play a Tekken, but I never really put effort into it, okay? It wasn't until Street Fighter 6 came out that I said, hey, looks like they're doing everything right. And let me tell you guys something. I don't think they could have really done better for the launch of any kind of a game. I actually think that Street Fighter 6 is pretty much the best effort ever seen by any company doing a video game at a launch. First of all, they have offline content that's meaningful. A crazy 20-plus hour gameplay experience in World Tour mode. All right? Very good visuals, as you can see now that the frame rate is stabilizing in this video. Very good 60 frame per second, colorful, beautiful fighting game visuals. An awesome, robust, complex game engine that's way better than the engine of Street Fighter V. Absolutely. And a really awesome launch cast of characters, many of which play differently. And that was really the problem with Street Fighter V, is that basically when the game came out, Street Fighter V that is, most of the characters almost played exactly the same. If you knew the patterns or whatever, it was incredibly simplistic. But with Street Fighter 6, there's so many different characters that you can play as that play completely differently from each other, and that's incredibly fun. And that's what I like. I like oddball characters. I don't want to necessarily just use a top-tier rush-down character who uses the same pattern. Maybe I want to do a keep-away character like Dalsim. Maybe I want to do an oddball character here like my Blanca, who happens to be my best character in the game. Because I like this game so much, and by the way, absolutely needs to be called out, at least for the first many months of this game, it had the absolute best netcode of any fighting game ever. The best connections, very few dropped inputs, very few issues with lag or delay or desyncing. I mean, very inoften did I ever get like a fully desynced match or anything like that. I think that the ranking system was done well at launch. Like literally, it's hard for me to say that there were things that were annoying about this game at launch. It was done completely well, all right? And if it doesn't speak as a testament to how much I like the game, it's my most played game of 2023. This game got me back into competitive fighters, and I didn't think I ever would be, quite frankly, at my age, being 41 years old, and having been out of the competitive fighting game scene for 7+ years, to be able to play this game and get not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 characters to the master ranking online, never of which I didn't even play Street Fighter 4 that much online. And I liked Street Fighter 4, and I didn't do that. This game I absolutely did. I went crazy playing this game, essentially, and got really good at it. I mean, look at the combos that I'm doing on screen right now and dropping, but then I end up winning the match anyway. Right? So, here's the thing. A lot of people would say to me, well, I don't get it. Isn't this the game that also disappointed you and caused you the most amount of rage? Well, you could say that too, but that's because of my passion for fighting games, right? I love them. I want to be able to perform at a level that's entertaining to you, and to know that I can hang with some of the better players online. And the fact is that over the months that this game has been out, the experience has deteriorated for sure. For sure. What happened is there's less players. When I first started playing, there was a humongous body of players. So no matter who you were playing, almost every single time you're getting a good connection because it's picking from the best. But as you rank up and you get better, now you want to play people that are of your rank, and that's a smaller player pool. As the game gets older, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, the player pool is just smaller and smaller anyways. People fall off and stop playing the game. So ultimately, it's always going to get worse over time, and that's what happened. My overall experience with this game started off incredibly strong and then ended up being very, very disappointing. Now, in the modern day, when I try to play it, it's harder to get good connections and fair matches. A lot of the times what's happened is people have found ways around being fair and kind of abusing the lag and stuff, and so your experience is going to degrade. And there's nothing much you can really do about that. That always happens when it comes to fighting games in the long term, all right? But again, a cool story mode for those who don't care about the game being competitive, that's 20+ hours long. The ability to create your own avatar and have an online social experience, that's really cool, in an online lobby system. Online lobbies that work, that have proper moderation, invites, it all works functionally at launch. A great initial online experience, the best netcode I've ever experienced in a fighting game, hands down. Even though I criticize it today, it's still the best that's available out there. Just take a look at their direct competitor, Mortal Kombat 1, and see how poorly that game performed, and you're going to see that even though this game isn't perfect, it's still the best option that you have, okay? A unique cast of characters, great combat mechanics that are very, very complex, but also rewarding and fun to learn. Just trust me, because when I started the game, I didn't understand half of them. And then by the time I started learning them, I was performing well and really enjoying the game at the high level that I played it at. I mean, I could keep going on and on about the good things about Street Fighter 6. It is right now the best fighting game out there. Now, will something else beat it? Maybe. You got Tekken 8 right around the corner. There's going to be other games coming out. You never know what happens, because you know this is going to have expansions that are going to change the way the game plays online, and maybe it'll end up being better or worse. Who knows? But what I can tell you is, it was awesome. The 7 to 8 months that I just played Street Fighter 6 straight, I really enjoyed it. I was excited to get back into competitive fighting games. I had a great time with it. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I know you did. You were along for the ride. The views were outstanding. The support was grand. It was a very awesome experience to play Street Fighter 6 with all of you. I don't want you to think that this means this is the end of me playing it. It isn't. But at the same time, it's time to maybe give other games a lot more attention, especially with Tekken 8 coming out soon. I'm going to give that a shot. But I loved it. I hope you'll, maybe one day, maybe you'll go back and watch some of these matches and see my progress over the months, how I got better and better with certain characters and stuff like that. It's kind of a fun thing to do, right? Anyway, Street Fighter 6, number 3, favorite game of 2023. There you go. Some people are upset. I know they are. No Super Real Vibe says, don't remember, there's still 2 DLC characters on the way. Right, and I did buy the season pass, and I will be checking out those characters. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the top 2, and much like I just did with my disappointing games of the year countdown, what I would like to do now is compare the top 2 games head to head, let you know exactly what I liked about each one, and then announce my pick for game of the year. So in no particular order, please allow me to announce the top 2 games. These are not number 2 and number 1. These are the top 2. Then I'm going to tell you what my real pick for game of the year is, okay? So the first game making the finals of my Game of the Year awards for 2023 is Lies of P. This game delighted me in every single way that I want to be delighted when I'm playing a video game. Outstanding graphical performance on the Xbox Series X. Responsive, fun controls and gameplay elements that change depending on what weapon you're using and that are constantly evolving over the course of the game. A story that was absolutely riveting. Riveting. The lore of Lies of P was exceptionally good. It got me hooked on this universe and made me buy in. I didn't think I would. I thought, it's kind of a Bloodborne knockoff, right? But once you get into the plot, why are these androids revolting? Why do they have independence all of a sudden and they're not obeying the humans? What are these weird mutations in the environment and where did they come from? And do they have some factor into the malfunctioning androids? What is going on behind the scenes with this mysterious alchemist who seems to be pulling the strings, no pun intended, of all the robots and the main character, right? So all this going on and tying into the story of Pinocchio is just an added bonus, because if you know the story of Pinocchio or if you've seen maybe the Disney movie, you're trying to figure out who are the characters, how does it tie in and stuff like that. The game starts off good, but just gets better and better. First you start off just fighting androids, then you're fighting mutations and freaks, then you're fighting mutated monsters, bugs, all kinds of stuff. The bosses are just as varied as any FromSoft game and have unique fun elements to them. The game is very challenging, but never at any point during the game did I feel like it was unfair. I felt like it was right on par with what you would expect from a FromSoft game. And the funny part about that is, how many years have we all been asking for Bloodborne 2? And we keep asking, but we don't get it. Well, this company basically said, we're not waiting any longer. It's obvious FromSoft isn't doing it. Let's do it. And really, this game feels to me like the spiritual successor to Bloodborne. It's not exactly the same, okay? You know, there are different things. There's a parry system instead of a gun to fire to parry. You're doing timed blocks and things like that. But definitely, the hybrid of gameplay between Bloodborne and Sekiro is apparent. The gothic style of the cities and the like also is very, very apparent. And the music is well done. The story, the atmosphere, it's all well done. It's like if you wanted another Bloodborne, but you knew you could never get one, this is the best thing that you're going to get. All right? Oh, by the way, it's lengthy. It's a great value for the dollar. It's not a quick 10-hour experience. It's very lengthy. Just, again, as lengthy as Bloodborne or any other game in that franchise. So they did it right. And I apologize because I feel like I picked a crappy video. I thought that... I really thought that I had picked a better video than this. I definitely didn't, as you can see. I accidentally picked a video where he's just walking around the hotel. If he doesn't go do some combat quick, I think I'll play a different video. I thought I had it. I definitely picked the wrong video here because this is all story elements. So you know what? Hold on. What number was it? It was number 4. Hold on a second here. Is this it here? There you go. So now you can actually see some action. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Totally my fault. Yeah, exactly. People like, did you play Lies of P or Hotel Simulator? Oops. So here's the actual Lies of P here. So anyway, yeah, really fun game, you know? And the only disappointment is I really wish that it was from FromSoft. I wish FromSoft had made it. I really do. Because it's sad that FromSoft kind of gave up on Bloodborne. I don't know if it was because of that. The rumors are that that game was made in conjunction with Sony and there were rights issues or something like that. I don't know. I wish that this was Bloodborne 2. But I think we kind of accept it now. We're never going to get a Bloodborne 2. So to see another company actually put in the effort to make a game that's just as good as Bloodborne is well appreciated. And in a year that did have other FromSoft knockoffs like Wolong Fallen Dynasty and Lords of the Fallen and these other games that did not live up to the expectation, this game far exceeded it. When I started playing Lies of P, I didn't expect it was going to be this good at all. Like, I thought it would be maybe decent, but I'm always skeptical when I go to play one of these kind of FromSoft knockoff games. So for me, I was like, maybe I'll check it out, maybe I won't. Then they announced it's on Game Pass, and I was like, okay, now I'm more apropos to check it out. And by the way, we're back to the hotel. I definitely picked the wrong clips. But anyway, I loved it. I really did. And you guys did too. I know earlier I said that probably Resident Evil 4 was the most viewed playthrough of the year. This was probably a close second. You guys always showed up for these streams in droves. You supported them. You engaged with them. You love when I'm playing difficult games. I know that. You love the enjoyment. I'm in the hotel. I'm buying things again. You love the enjoyment when I'm challenged, but I overcome that challenge, right? You know, first I'm getting hammered, but then I come back and I learn the elements and I overcome. That's one of some of the best gameplay that I can put out there. And this game was that. Like, this was the best example of that. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it as much. You know, the thing is, a lot of people don't really like to see me go back and do second runs. I would consider maybe doing a second run with a different build at some point. But they've already announced, get this game sold so well, they are absolutely making other games. They're going to make a direct sequel to this, and they're even talking about making other games as well that aren't Lies of P, because this game did so well. So that's great news, and I cannot wait for the next one. But that is not the only game in contention for Game of the Year, because, ladies and gentlemen, there was another game that I was unsure of. A game so long desired, so long, you know, to be developed, and then finally when it was announced it was being made, it was like, man, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. The original game was good, but definitely had shortcomings. And finally, to hear that this game was being made, and then when you start playing it and you're like, wow, this is pretty darn good. It's very similar at first to the original game, but it feels more like a serious thriller style game this time around with horror elements, as opposed to just a game that was kind of like story with some repetitive gameplay. Before I get too ahead of myself, let me just say it's Alan Wake 2, of course, a game where there's two protagonists that you switch between on the fly at a certain point in the game, a game that completely picks up the story of Alan Wake 1 from over a decade ago in a great and creative way. Is Alan still stuck in the lake? What's going on around Cauldron Lake? There's now an FBI investigator there to try to figure this out. You've got your investigation of the environments with items. You've got your gunplay against supernatural enemies, but the gunplay is well refined and much better than in the original game. You've got open environments that you can investigate, but you've also got more linear environments inside of confined areas to explore, okay? The other real cool thing about this game is it ties in with the other games that Remedy has made over the last decade. Did you know that Control, their last very popular game, very much makes appearances in this game and has direct ties to it? It happens in the same universe and has crossovers, which is really cool. Did you know that the actor who played the actor who played Max Payne and also is the creator of all these games actually is a main character in this game? Pretty neat. This game also does so many unique things that I've never seen in a video game before. A whole element of narrative where, like, you have to use a big investigation board to put clues together to try to piece together the plot, and then once you hit it right, then it kind of explains more of the plot. And what about that absolutely, positively amazing musical number, the likes of which I've never seen in a video game before? It's like you're in the middle of a giant rock opera, but it's part of the game. And another thing a lot of people don't mention because they didn't even realize it, there's also a whole full-length indie film. It's about 22 minutes long that's in this game, and you can watch it and enjoy it, and it's more of the story, but a lot of people don't know it's in there. They walk right by it and miss it, okay? But the voice acting, the mocap, the transition between the real-life actors and then the in-game representations of the actors, the various different versions of the environments, as you just saw, Alan shifting with light and plot lines between different versions of each room and how they integrate, the quick loading of the graphics between those areas, all right? The creepiness of the plot, always getting you wondering who's doing what. Is it really an evil presence? Is Alan just crazy? Is Alan controlling the environment when he writes? Or is it actually this mysterious Mr. Scratch doing that, right? Giant boss fights, awesome epic parts. This game is really well done. This game is more than twice as good as the original Alan Wake, in my opinion. And I'm happy to see that it got good recognition at the Game Awards and other places, because I was nervous. Alan Wake 1 was a good game, but it had a lot of shortcomings. It got very boring by the last half. It was too much repetitive grindiness. The plot was the best part, but the combat was basically a big shortcoming. In this game, there is so much more added to it to make it better, to make it not feel like a repetitive grind. That's why they had those unique scenes in there. By the way, I should bring up the graphical performance of the game was absolutely outstanding. As you can see, it ran absolutely beautifully on the Xbox Series X when I played it. No issues there, no big massive frame rate drops, no crashes, no giant bugs or anything like that. It was a wild ride. Oh, by the way, it's incredibly long too, right? Seriously, like for the value for the dollar, it's a huge game. Alan Wake 1 wasn't nearly as long as this one. It almost feels like this is what they wanted to do with Alan Wake 1 over a decade ago. But because of the limitations of what was possible back then, they couldn't make the game. They had to go through a decade of making other games like Quantum Break and Control to get to the point where now they could actually make that game they wanted. And now that it's out, this is so much better than the original. And again, blew me away. I liked Alan Wake 1. I loved Alan Wake 2. I cannot wait for the expansions, for the sequel. You know they're making more because the game sold very well, and already they've got all these things lined up, DLC expansions and everything else, and I'm very excited for that, all right? So, when I'm looking at the top 2 games of the year, all right, and it's like, man, how do you determine what's the best game of the year? You got to look at a few factors, right? I mean, both Lies of P as well as Alan Wake 2 are worthy of being Game of the Year 2023 in my opinion. So I got to kind of start looking at like objective versus subjective, you know. I always wanted a sequel to Bloodborne. Well, we got it, and it's exceptionally good. Well, I always wanted a sequel to Alan Wake, and we got it, and it's exceptionally good. Both games improve upon the things that they're striving to improve upon, and they give you a unique and fun experience, right? So honestly, it's so hard for me to pick, all right? I'm just going to be a cop-out, and I'm going to say Baldur's Gate 3 is the best game of 2023. That way, everyone will get off my ass and stop bothering me and stop pestering me, okay? I'm done. That's my game of the year. No, I'm not going to do that. Absolutely not. Instead, I'm actually going to be a man about it, and I'm going to select an actual winner, okay? Okay, it's this simple. When you're selecting a game of the year, you have to weigh and balance everything. The length of the game, the quality of the game, the graphics, the performance, everything. There is one shining factor in my game of the year determination for 2023. Taking chances and being unique. There is one game this year that took creative chances and did things in a video game that I've absolutely never seen before and had moments that I will never forget. And that game absolutely positively was Alan Wake 2. With that rock opera segment, with the short film that's in there, with the uniqueness of the plot and the investigation techniques of the Mind Palace that are in there, 2 protagonists you can alternate between whenever you feel like. It did so many things that could have not worked, and they all worked. Every single one of those things actually works. And because of that, I will have this unique memory of an absolutely outstanding game in my mind for years to come. I will not forget the Herald of Darkness musical number. I'm going to remember those lyrics. I'm going to remember that music. I'm going to remember that time that I was sitting right here with all of you and how much we enjoyed that together on that night stream, that we weren't expecting that to happen, and we were all blown away. Okay? So, Alan Wake 2, because of the chances it took and creatively hit the home run, is my pick for Game of the Year of 2023. So, I've done it. I ranked them per my personal preferences. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I can tell you right now, Monty Mole's furious because he just typed about 72 different tomatoes into the stream chat. So he's very upset with me. But I think this was an exceptionally good year for games, and I hope that if you have difference of opinion, you'll share it with me by leaving a comment on this video after the fact and let me know. But in the meantime, man, as disappointing as games were in 2023, as you can see via my countdown here, there were just as great positive games. And I'm happy to see that not every game is becoming just a sellout or a game that wants to copy another game and fail miserably, you know? I'm happy for that there's still innovation, that there's still creativity in the gaming community, that they're still trying to make works of art that will resonate and be remembered, rather than, how do we print the most money for this game we're about to put out? That's a major problem we're having right now in the gaming industry, and it's getting very hard to tackle those issues, okay? Thankfully, not every game dev team has been corrupted or ruined by its own parent company or management team, and we're still getting unique experiences. So, what will we get in 2024? You know, I'm hopeful for some pretty awesome games. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is looking absolutely amazing. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is looking superb. But I think we're a little early. Being in January, you never know, because a lot of these games that look good now might actually end up being disappointments, as we saw in my year-end series this year. But if anything, as long as the sparks of creativity stay alive within these artistic people that are making games, there's hope that there's going to be unique experiences coming, and that's what I'm looking for. So, thank you all for hanging out with me in 2023, another superb year for games. Thank you for watching my year-end series. Thank you for all of your love and support of DSP Gaming over the course of this last year. I can promise you this, 2024 is already off to a great start and is going to be another great one here. So, for my year-end series and for my Game of the Year awards for 2023, this is DSP signing off and saying thank you all so very much. I offer you my gratitude and my thoughts of hopefulness for the new year. Peace out, my friends, and I will see you all on a gaming stream to come soon. Bye-bye for now.